I'm Sarah, the graphic designer and brand strategist behind Ponderstream, which is a blog, podcast, and webinar series for creative entrepreneurs. And this is Ponderstream, which is the webinar component of that. And normally these will be live episodes coming out once a week. But this episode is pre-recorded so that I could give you a little intro on my business and also some of the topics that you're going to see here. So this episode, like I said, will be an introduction, and also I'm going to be talking about the two most important things to know about when starting and growing an online business. So they're kind of the two biggest lessons that I've learned in the past 2.5 years of growing a product-based online business. So stay tuned for that. I'm going to talk about that in just a moment. But these webinars are going to be completely pitch-free, so I won't be throwing products or services at you or doing a sales pitch at the end. I might mention something occasionally if it matches with the topic we're talking about, but my goal for these is to actually be helpful and enjoyable to watch, and just be a free resource sharing some of the things that I wish I knew when I was starting my business journey over 2 years ago. So that being said, these webinars will be once a week, and I'm hoping to turn the audio into a podcast just as another way of listening to the content. And the blog will be the most updated part. So I'm going to be publishing new blog posts between 2 and 5 times every week. And still trying to figure out exactly what it's going to look like doing this full time, but my goal is to just get as much of this out to you guys, and I've found it pretty hard to find a lot of helpful resources and content out there on growing a creative business. A lot of it is really salesy, like with sales pitch, or you feel like you're going there to buy something and the content might not be all that helpful, or it's really generic and kind of written to larger businesses. So I thought it would be helpful to have resources that are geared towards female creative entrepreneurs. So that's why I started Ponderstream. And I also found that I was getting a lot of questions on how to get more people to buy products, or how to create a better, stronger brand, or just how to get started with a business. And I found that I really loved responding to these questions I was getting, and I would end up writing really, really long email responses. So I thought that creating a blog would be a really helpful way to get this out to even more people to help them. So I think nowadays in 2018 it's easier than ever to start a business. We have so many options at our fingertips for choosing websites and tools and Instagram and other marketing apps. We kind of have all of it just on our computer, our phone, and maybe a notebook or a planner. You can kind of start a business with that these days. So because of all of that, there's a lot of businesses out there. So there's more, I don't know if competition is the best word, but there's more businesses out there nowadays doing what you probably want to do than there were 5 years ago. So it's really important to do a few things, which are the two things that I'm going to be talking about that are something you should know when starting and growing a business. Get to that in just a second. So that's why I started Ponderstream, was to share the tips and the strategies that I've learned over the years. And so I really like keeping things as simple as possible and really efficient and focusing on the best way to go about something. And I've spent a lot of time figuring things out and um, finding what direction I wanted to go in, and a lot of times been wasted doing that and trying to research. And I found that it's really important to find clarity in a direction and keep it simple, especially when you're starting. I think we have so many ideas as creative people, and it's so easy and so tempting to want to follow them all or try to do them all or squeeze all of them into this business that you want to create, which can start to make it be really hard to handle and also kind of pull away from the specialty of your business. So that's where we're going to start talking about the two important things, I would say kind of the most important things to consider and be aware of when you're starting and growing a creative online business. So the first one is creating a niche or a specialization. So I think if you've been in business for 5 minutes and have read any blog posts on starting a business, you've probably come across the term niche. Finding your niche, creating your niche, staying in your niche. But I like to say that you need to go even farther than that. So a lot of times creating a niche is thought of as what you do for a specific set of people. So maybe you're a photographer and you might say that your niche is wedding photography. But I like to say that you need to take it a step deeper even than that. So specializing in wedding photography that takes place on farms, or wedding photography that has horses or something like that. Partly because there are so many businesses doing creative things now because they're easier to start, but also I think it's important to do that anyway, to challenge yourself to create something that's truly unique, and it helps to differentiate your business from all the other wedding photographers, for example. So that's really important, and I wish that I had really believed that when I started, because I think I have just so many ideas all the time, but it's so hard to keep myself from going after them, and I'm sure you can relate. And for a long time I did. All those ideas that I was getting coming to me in my sleep even, I would try to implement all of them, and I ended up kind of going all over the map and wasting a lot of time, and I'm sure I confused a lot of my audience, and it was all kind of what I thought was in the same niche, but it wasn't really a specialization. And so I wished that I had really understood what that was beforehand. And because I had read so many blog posts trying to figure out how to really find a niche, and I thought I did. But a few years later, I realized that I hadn't really arrived there yet, and that's when I started to figure things out. So niche is important, but specializing is even more important. And if only. I think part of me was stubborn when I first set out to start my business journey, because I wanted to go after all of those ideas. I wanted to pursue them all and incorporate them all into a business because, of course, I thought they were all great ideas. And even if there are 10 amazing ideas, if you try to fit them all together, they take away from each other. So really the value of focusing on something that's maybe just one or two great ideas and really owning them and calling them your own and making your business all about that is really, really important. So that's number one. Number two is to create the type of business that supports your personal goals and your personal lifestyle that you want to achieve. This is another thing that I hadn't even thought of really when I was starting a business. And a few years into it, I realized that, I got somewhere. My business was starting to bring in a consistent income, and I realized this isn't exactly the business that I wanted to create. I thought it was, but once I got there, I realized that I really needed to change it because it wasn't lining up with my personal long-term goals. And so it was another few years that I put into it that was basically wasted. Now, I won't say wasted because I learned so much during those years, and I wouldn't take them back, but I wish somehow I could have sped up that learning process and known everything in just a few months than like 2 years, because I would have been farther along, and I wouldn't have wasted nearly as much time, and I would have had that clarity from the beginning towards my niche as well. So it's really important to first start with you and start with your personal life and what you want your life to look like immediately and then also long term. Generally speaking, if you spend a lot more time in your business at the beginning, you can either start to ease up as you go or keep the same pace, depending on what you really want your business to do for you. So when you start a business, the goal of it is to make money. It's not just to have a hobby, because if you want to have a hobby, then just consider it a hobby. But if you want to do this as your living, maybe full time, and that's what you do instead of going to a job every day, then you really need to create a business that is going to be sustainable for long term and your personal goals. So, for example, let's talk about photography again. If you want to be a wedding photographer and you love the way it sounds and you start it and you start booking, a few weddings every month. I'm not sure how often wedding photographers generally go for, but I'm sure it would be a few weddings a month at least. And let's say you enjoy it, but it doesn't really fit with the personal goal you have of being able to stay home and work from home all the time and not have to maybe go meet up with clients. Maybe you have little ones to care for at home or something like that. And so you've spent all this time growing an audience and booking clients, but it's not really the exact same route that you thought you wanted to go. So that's why I always say it's so important to think about this before you even start. Really think about what you want your life to look like on a daily basis running your business, and then see if your business ideas and your goals match up with that. Because if you start with your business goals and then try to fit your personal goals in that, it's putting your business before you, and your business really is a tool for you and for your life as something that you can enjoy and bring money in and support your family. And so I really highly suggest that you start with that and take some time to visualize, and do some research on what it is going to look like if you create a successful business doing this thing that you have an idea for. Or maybe you have 10 ideas, like I said earlier. It can help you narrow down which idea to pursue. And it can actually be really helpful to have certain limitations like this, because it can help knock off a few ideas that you might have really hard time doing that otherwise. So that's the second thing. So the first one was specializing in a niche, and the second was creating a business structure and model, and what that looks like on a daily basis, doing and living your business and running that, and make sure that fits into your personal goals and what you want that business life to look like for you. So this was just a quick little intro episode, and I hope you found it helpful, and I hope it gave you a few things to think about in terms of starting or growing your business, and that you know a little bit more about Ponder Trail and these Ponderstream webinars. So be on the lookout for another episode soon, and also the blog. There like I said, hoping to post between 2 and 5 times every week, hopefully closer to 5. And yeah, so pondertrail.com is the best way to stay on top of everything. And I would love if you reached out as well and introduced yourself. And there's a contact page on my website. You could also say hello on Instagram, which is at pondertrail. And I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you watched this video. And yeah, I'll see you later. Bye.